Decision Day. Ireland heads to the polls in a referendum that could lift a strict ban on abortion. We have a report with EWTN Ireland. Willing to reconsider. The North Korean government is open for talks a day after President Trump cancels the anticipated summit. What the White House is saying today. Soon to be Cardinals. We highlight 2 church leaders from majority Muslim countries. And keeping up with demand. We'll talk to one of the people behind the fast-selling baseball's world champion-themed rosaries. On EWTN News Nightly for Friday, May 25th, 2018. Good evening from Washington, D.C., and thank you for joining us for News from a Catholic Perspective. I'm Wyatt Goolsby, in for Lauren Ashburn. Tonight's top story, a high-stakes referendum which could lead to abortion on demand in the land of St. Patrick. Polls just closed in Ireland, where voters were asked whether or not to scrap the Irish Constitution's protection for the unborn. We'll have a report from EWTN Ireland in just a moment. But first, correspondent Jason Calvey gives us the basics.
Ireland's 8th Amendment currently states the state acknowledges the right to life of the unborn and with due regard to the equal right to life of the mother. But that would be scrapped if the yes vote wins on the abortion referendum. The amendment would be replaced with provision may be made by law for the regulation of termination of pregnancy. Both campaigns fought hard to win. Yes?
We really are going to remove this massive obstacle to women's safety, health, well-being and freedom. This is a referendum for the Irish people. It's the Irish people's vote. We do not accept funding from outside, and we're absolutely clear about that.
Versus no.
I completely agree that we need to support women better in this country, but I do not think the answer is to intentionally end lives in the process.
Ireland's Prime Minister campaigned to legalize abortion.
Always get a little buzz from voting. It just feels like it's democracy in action. Not taking anything for granted, of course, but quietly confident. There's been a good turnout so far across the country, and so hopefully it'll be a yes vote.
But the yes vote could lead to the slaughter of the innocents.
This is one of those issues where either you believe that the unborn child is a human being with rights and a right to life, or you do not.
For those who do, their vote is no.
It's a hard decision, but I just feel I just don't have the right to take life. I think life is sacred, and for that reason I have to vote no.
The polls before the election showed the majority would support abortion in Ireland, but many people are praying the abortion referendum gets shot down. Ireland voted in 2015 to legalize marriage of same-sex couples, so this is just another battle for the soul of the traditionally Catholic country. Wyatt?
Jason, if Ireland votes yes on abortion, then what comes next? What's the next steps?
Well, a yes vote would get rid of that constitutional protection for the unborn. Then lawmakers would still need to pass pro-abortion laws. One that's being floated around would allow abortion up to 12 weeks of pregnancy. Ireland right now does allow abortion if the mother's health, Wyatt, is at risk.
Okay, we'll continue to follow this throughout the weekend and the results as well. Correspondent Jason Calvey. Thanks, Jason. Joining us now with more on today's vote is Tracy Harkin with EWTN Ireland. Tracy, how has the turnout been? Are we seeing the large numbers of voters we expected to see?
It certainly looks that way, Wyatt. Polls opened up early this morning at 7 a.m. and by noontime in some areas throughout the country, up to 25% of voters had already cast their vote. So yes, and we're told that the voting numbers have been very steady throughout the day. There's still quite a few hours to go here, but definitely the high turnout that was predicted, it definitely looks as if it is that way as we speak, yes.
And we talked earlier this week about the number of undecided voters leading up to today's elections. What sorts of prayer vigils or religious efforts did we see overnight and today to try to encourage people to vote against the repeal?
Well, there has been an unprecedented amount of prayer. Many people are saying they've never seen anything quite like it. And this is prayer that's been said both within the country in many parishes where we've had all-night vigils, hours of adoration, and also outside the country as well, with people promising to say their rosaries for Ireland. And indeed, in some quarters, there's been promises of up to 40 hours adoration dedicated to this referendum. So there's been a wonderful outpouring of initiative at grassroots level, just from ordinary people, both within parishes and just also people within their own private homes.
It's incredible to hear the outpouring there of prayer. So we won't know the official results until tomorrow, so we'll continue to follow that. But let me ask you this, Tracy. What has the significance of this vote been, and what do you think it means for Ireland going forward?
Well, this is a hugely significant moment in Irish history, Wyatt. As other countries have went down the path of abortion, Ireland has remained steadfast and continuing to resist it, the push to liberalise our abortion laws. If the yes vote goes ahead and if the constitutional ban is lifted, it will mean that abortion will be for the first time available in Ireland, unrestricted, no questions asked, up to 12 weeks. And up to 24 weeks on very unspecified health grounds. If the vote is no, and that's very much the hope and indeed the expectation of many pro-life people at this point, if the vote is no, it will be extremely significant, not just for Ireland, but worldwide, because we will have become world leaders in stopping the tide of abortion and offering better for women and children.
Well, like we say, I know that a lot of people in Ireland are praying for this issue, and around the world people are praying for the pro-life issue. Tracy Harkin, EWTN Ireland, thanks so much for your analysis.
Thank you, Wyatt.
President Trump now says the summit he canceled with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un could be back on. That after announcing yesterday that North Korea had been angry and hostile in statements towards the U.S. He now says they are being warm and productive. White House correspondent Mark Irons reports. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Wyatt. We'll see what happens. That continues to be the message from President Trump regarding this summit. On the bright side, he says communication is back underway. North Korea released a statement saying Trump's decision to cancel the summit was very regrettable, and North Korea is willing to have the meeting at any time.
We're going to see what happens. We're talking to them now. It was a very nice statement they put out. We'll see what happens.
The president adding today the summit, which was scheduled to happen in Singapore, could even take place on June 12th as planned up until yesterday when he pulled out.
We'll see what happens. It could even be the 12th. We're talking to them now. They very much want to do it. We'd like to do it. We're going to see what happens.
President Trump is hoping to sit down with the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, and make a deal that would end the country's missile test and its development of nuclear weapons. Yesterday, North Korea purportedly destroyed one of its nuclear testing sites, but a White House senior official says experts were not on hand to verify if the site is truly unusable now. The tone from both President Trump and Kim Jong-un in the lead up to this potential summit has been a combination of hostile and respectful. With the North Koreans now releasing what the president called a productive statement, he says he's hopeful it will lead to long and enduring prosperity and peace. Wyatt?
And I'm sure this is not the last we've heard of this back and forth. Feeling we'll continue to cover this. Thanks, White House correspondent Mark Irons. Appreciate it. President Trump congratulates more than 1,000 U.S. Naval Academy graduates while speaking at their commencement address. The president voiced his support for service members.
We are not going to apologize for America. We are going to stand up for America. No more apologies. We are going to stand up for our citizens. We are going to stand up for our values. And we are going to stand up for our men and women in uniform.
This marked President Trump's first time speaking at the Academy's graduating class. He remained at the ceremony after his speech to shake each graduate's hand. At least 7 people are dead after a car bombing in Benghazi, Libya. 10 others were injured. The blast hit behind the city's largest hotel. The city, which is Libya's second largest, is under the control of the Libyan National Army. Iraq's Ministry of Defense releases a video allegedly showing one of 2 airstrikes on an ISIS target inside Syria. The Iraqi military says they launched the strikes last night. While ISIS no longer holds territory in Iraq, it is present just across the border. This is not the first time Iraqi forces have targeted the terrorist group in Syria. The leader of Iraq's Chaldean Catholics is one of 14 new cardinals named by Pope Francis just last Sunday. Luis Rafael Sacco is getting praise, especially in Muslim countries. A priest and expert on Islam in Rome who personally knows Patriarch Sacco says he's a great choice.
He is open-minded and has a great heart and a great vision. And I think he is very much wanted in Iraq by all people, both Muslims and Christians.
Egyptian Father Samir Khalil helped supervise Sacco's doctoral studies in Rome. He told our Juliet Lindley he's known Sacco for many years. With more on this, we go to Vatican correspondent Juliet Lindley, who joins us now from Rome. Juliet, what else did Father Samir tell you about the soon-to-be cardinal?
Wyatt, he told me he thinks Luis Sacco is a perfect pick, even for the Muslim community. He's an Arab, he knows the Quran well, and he's well-versed in Muslim culture and tradition. Father Samir also told me he knows Sacco is fully committed to staying in Iraq, and that's no easy feat given that many Christians are asking themselves in Iraq whether to stay or leave the country in the wake of the violence against them perpetrated by ISIS.
And of course, there's another soon-to-be cardinal from another Muslim country, Archbishop Coutts. He's from Pakistan. Now, Muslim leaders are also praising the Pope's decision on him. What are they saying?
Indeed, Wyatt, the director of the Interreligious Commission for Peace and Harmony in Karachi says the appointment of Joseph Coutts is a great honor for the entire nation of Pakistan. He said, quote, "We support him in building and promoting love, peace, harmony and unity in Pakistan." And the president of the Pakistani People's Party, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, reacted saying, quote, "We cannot wait to work together with Cardinal Coutts in a peaceful and a tolerant Pakistan."
The Pope also recently gave an interview to an Italian newspaper in which he spoke about dialogue with Islam. What did he say about that issue?
Speaking to a journalist of the northern Italian newspaper L'Eco di Bergamo, the Holy Father argued that we shouldn't equate all of Islam with terrorism. Now, that's something Pope Francis has said often, and recently Cardinal Jean-Louis Torrent, who heads the Vatican Office for Dialogue with Muslims, visited Saudi Arabia. He's promoting dialogue to fight terrorism and ignorance, and is calling for Christians not to be considered second-class citizens. However, Wyatt, Francis has also spoken often about the persecution of Christians, and in February he met personally with a Nigerian victim of the jihadist group Boko Haram, as well as the husband and daughter of Asia Bibi, a Christian Pakistani woman imprisoned on charges of blasphemy against Islam.
Such an important issues here, and I know people of faith around the world, not just Catholics, are praising Pope Francis for standing up for some of these issues. Juliet Lindley, EWTN News Nightly Vatican correspondent. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Wyatt.
Coming up, part 2 of a conversation with Philippines Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. Disgraced filmmaker Harvey Weinstein goes before a judge in a New York courtroom today after he voluntarily turns himself into police. Weinstein will face criminal sexual act and rape charges for incidents involving 2 separate women. Weinstein is also the focus of sex crimes investigations in Los Angeles and London. Welcome back. I'm Wyatt Goolsby, in for Lauren Ashburn. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of Manila says more poor Filipinos are starting to gain access to the internet, but it's not all being used for good. Here's part 2 of EWTN contributors Colin Flynn's conversation with the Cardinal.
One horrible case is the use of the internet for online exploitation of children and of vulnerable peoples. Due to poverty, some families, it's just the parents.
The parents who are the perpetrators of this.
Yeah, perpetrate. These things, online exploitation, is happening in the homes, in the secrecy of the homes.
And I heard you talk before, Cardinal, where you've said that when you confront these families and the parents, they don't see it as real abuse because it's not a physical thing; it's through a webcam or online.
Yes, that remark coming from a parent was reported to me by some religious women who have rescued some children, and when they interviewed some of the parents, they said, "Well, this is not real abuse, and it can be used as an excuse. Since it is virtual, then it is not real.
Yeah.
And what makes me sad is I know the Filipino family, I know the Filipino culture. This is almost unthinkable.
Let's talk for a moment about the scandal within the church and within the Catholic Church in the Philippines. Do you think the Filipino people are satisfied with how you and the church have dealt with the clergy who perpetrated some of these awful crimes on children?
Oh no, you know, whenever there are cases of maltreatment of children, you know that nobody will take that lightly. No? Especially when those that are accused of doing it are supposed to be the moral leaders. And we have seen, you know, an increase also in people's awareness and also reporting of cases, you know. And the dioceses are more alert now and more responsive, especially in relationship with the Vatican, you know, because of the protocols. You know.
But even with all the reporting and the cases that have come to light within the Philippines, not one arrest, not one person prosecuted?
Well, you know, it is yes, but at the same time, they don't always find fault in the church because the laws.
And why haven't the law come after those people, those clergy?
They handle it within the canonical process, you know. But the civil legislation is different from what you find in Europe or in other parts of the world.
And do you find that most people in the Philippines are satisfied with that, with it being dealt internally within the church?
Some are generally, in fact, some would trust the canonical process better than the civil cases.
When the Pope visited in 2015, it was a huge event for the Philippines. What do you remember about Pope Francis and your dealings with him? What struck you about his character?
Oh, there are many things, you know. But one aspect of the visit that I really marveled at, because I was part of the preparations, etc., is when something comes up, he freely would change plans in order to respond. So I saw someone who is sensitive to the cries of peoples and could see and hear what God might be communicating through those unexpected events.
Well, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you too, thank you, I enjoyed it.
And our thanks to Colin Flynn for that interview. You can watch the full interview on our Facebook page. Just search for EWTN News Nightly. Up next, a helping hand. How the Vatican is creating an evening of fun for hundreds of those in need. And spreading the gospel while heading to the ballpark. How one group has a unique way to raise money for their parish.
Litigano, ma l'importante è che la carne rimanga una.
Pope Francis calls marriage an image of God. During his homily today at the Vatican, the Holy Father talked about the beauty of the sacrament. He was also critical of divorce, saying there's too much arguing about whether humans can divide a marriage or not. The Holy Father also says marriage is between a man and a woman. Welcome back. I'm Wyatt Goolsby, in for Lauren Ashburn. The Vatican teams up with the Italian Athletes Federation to bring a little joy to the poor. They're inviting about 250 homeless and migrant people to watch the upcoming Golden Gala at Rome's Olympic Stadium next week. The Vatican says the move is thanks to Pope Francis, who is pushing for more gestures of friendship and solidarity towards the poor. And finally tonight, fans of the World Series champion Houston Astros are pitching in to help pay for renovations at the city's oldest Catholic church by selling handmade Astros-themed rosaries. Parishioners and volunteers at Annunciation Catholic Church say they can hardly keep up with the demand for the rosaries, which are made in the Astros colors, orange and blue. The church has been selling the rosaries for several years, but started to sell in the thousands last year when the Astros went to the playoffs and eventually the World Series. Joining me now is one of the organizers helping sell the rosaries. Elsie Hernandez is the Director of Development for Annunciation Catholic Church in Houston. Elsie, welcome to the program. You are still selling these rosaries. In fact, you're having trouble keeping up with demand. Did you have any idea when you first started selling them that they would be this popular?
No, we had no idea. A year ago, the sales were certainly not what they are today. They've just really taken off.
And tell me a little bit about how they're made. I mean, you guys are not producing these on some sort of factory. I mean, these are handmade.
These are handmade by two ladies that are very dedicated and devoted to their faith. This is just some of the works that they do in different apostolates. So they take the time to make each rosary, picking the beads, picking the medals and the crucifix. They want to make each rosary special.
And your parish is particularly devoted to the rosary. You have signs I've seen right outside the ballpark that tell people to pray the rosary. What is the impact of these sports-themed rosaries had on people?
Well, you know, it started last year with Our Lady of Fatima and the 100-year anniversary, where Our Lady asked us to pray the rosary. So that was part of the initiative that got this started. So it was a way to introduce the public, the general public, to this devotion and being able to explain to them. We've had several non-Catholics purchase rosaries that are regular, that they come almost every game that they are attending and stop by our church to buy a rosary. So it was a way to introduce them to the rosary, introduce them to this devotion. And it has had even some calls have come in for people that have even been to church in a while. We've had several people that have requested them for sick people, for people that are in the last stages of life, that they've actually requested these rosaries. So it's been a way to reach and connect with people in ways that we just had no idea that it was going to go to this extent and reach them so personally. And it's been beautiful to see.
It's incredible to think how the rosary can help bring people to God. You know, Pope Francis himself has one of your rosaries. A couple of Houston area priests presented it to him back in February. What does it feel like knowing that the Pope has one of these Astros rosaries?
Oh my goodness. Well, that has certainly propelled our sales as well, I must say, because even the Pope has one of them. It meant so much, in particular, to the rosary maker that made that rosary. When I told her that the Father Norbert wanted to take one of our rosaries to the Pope, she went right to work picking the finest beads and the finest medals to make it really special for him. It's a way that we feel very connected as Catholics. Of course, you know, we certainly understand the importance of His Holiness. And so to have him actually having one of our rosaries to be able to pray with just means so much.
Well, God bless the work that you guys do there in trying to spread the message and obviously encouraging people to pray the rosary. Elsie Hernandez, Director of Development for Annunciation Catholic Church, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. God bless. Thank you.
And I want to thank Elsie and everyone at Annunciation. When I had the chance to visit a couple weeks ago, I even picked up a few of the rosaries myself when I was visiting my parents in Houston. Hopefully, it'll help lead more people to the faith. And with that, we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Wyatt Goolsby. For those of you here in the U.S., we hope you have a safe Memorial Day. We'll have a special Today's Catholic Woman edition of EWTN News Nightly on Monday. Good night, and God bless.